Hi, everyone, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 50. The title of this episode is Confusion Before the Economic Collapse, and you can see all around us that there are so many things happening. People are confused. The stock market's going up. The S&P's hitting its all-time high. The rest of the world, Europe, Cyprus, Japan, all you see is bad news over there. Our rights are being taken away. We're seeing war being built up, and there is so much confusion, and people don't know what's going on, and even the people who are sleeping are wondering, what the hell is going on? So let's get into the news, and actually before we get into the news, listen, everyone, I appreciate everything, and someone corrected me, and I did say Amazon sales were plummeting, and I just want to in one of my episodes, and I just want to make a correction here. And listen, hey, I make mistakes. Amazon's sales aren't plummeting, but other retail stores like JCPenney, it was in USA Today, JCPenney, Best Buy, Radio Shack, GameStop, they're all closing many, many stores, and their sales are not doing well. So, great you point things out because, sometimes my mouth moves a lot faster than my brain, and I just keep talking, and sometimes I mess up, and it's good that you guys are actually listening and correcting me. So let's get into the news, and we're going to start off with the economy right now. And we see Cyprus has executed the depositor bail-in. And maybe we should have a party for this. Now everyone gets to give them their money, and they have nothing left. But, this is what's going to happen all around the world. Every country is changing their laws. Swiss, Australia, Canada, England, United States, European nations. And I said this before, this document for the FDIC Bank of England was already in place. Cyprus was the test of this document, passed with flying colors. The people didn't do anything. They didn't, raise a stink. So everything seems good. So basically on Sunday, they took a 37.5% hit for the uninsured depositors, and they lost 37.5%. But don't worry, they got worthless stock paper, and it's Class A shares. And another 22.5% was held as a buffer for possible conversion in the future, and another 30% will be temporarily frozen and held as deposits. So you could see they're not getting their money. Their money is trapped. They're never getting to it. They can only take out a certain amount each time. The capital controls are still in effect, and nothing really has changed. And basically they're just taking their money at this point. And we can see from this that every single person, I know in my opinion, and I know what I'm doing, I am taking my money out of the bank. I do not trust them. I'm putting it into gold and silver, diversifying my portfolio, and not just keeping cash in the bank. And I keep cash on me just in case, because you never know when either a cyber attack, war, a bail-in, the collapse, the total collapse, who knows when it's going to happen. But you know what? You need to be prepared for it. But we can see that the collapse is coming, and we can see it by what the states are doing. The states are nullifying like the NDAA. Some of the states are passing laws that are for gun control, and other states are passing laws that have the opposite effect of gun control. And we see a lot of states starting to allow gold and silver to be used as money. And Texas, getting ready for collapse of the world economy, is minting their own money. So we can see that things are happening because the states wouldn't be doing these things if they thought everything was okay, everything's going smoothly, and we have nothing to worry about. Now, there was an interesting story that said that the more illegal immigrants that go on food stamps, the more money J.P. Morgan makes. And I find this very interesting because of the bill that's being proposed and the sequester, where we can't stop illegal immigrants coming in from the borders. So basically, what do we have? We have illegal immigrants coming in from the borders because DHS and the Border Patrol saying that they don't, because of the sequester, we don't have enough money to stop any of this, so we're just going to let them all in. How convenient. And the immigrants can apply for food stamps, and they need no proof or anything. And what does this tell us? This tells us that this is completely set up so J.P. Morgan can make the money, because J.P. Morgan is the one that hands out, and for every transaction, J.P. Morgan is getting all this money from the food stamp cards because they're the ones who are issuing it. So you can see this is some type of scam that's set up in the entire, food stamp type of system. And basically, the pending Senate immigration bill would bring a minimum of 33 million people into the country during its first decade of operation. So you can tell that this thing is completely a scam for J.P. Morgan. And they're the ones who are probably pushing this so they continually make money from immigrants using their food stamp program that the government backs. I mean, wow. So, moving on. Peter Schiff, he's one of the people that predicted the 2008 real estate credit crisis that we had, and he was, yelling about this over and over and over through 2005, 6, 7, and most of the time when he was on the news stations, people just laughed at him or told him that he was crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look at real estate now. How could you say that? It's so high. But what happened was the whole thing came tumbling down, and he was right. Now he's saying the same thing. And he came out and said that 2/3 of Americans to lose everything because of this crisis. And he goes on to say that, I think we are heading for a worse economic crisis than we had in 2007. You're going to have a collapse in the dollar, a huge spike in interest rates, and our whole economy, which is built on the foundation of cheap money, is going to topple when you pull the rug out from under it. So he's telling us that there's another collapse coming, and he's not the only one. There are many other people giving us the same sign, the same signal that something is coming. And basically he goes on to say, despite the phony signs of economic recovery, the cancer destroying American stems from a lethal concoction of our $16 trillion federal debt and the Fed's never-ending money printing. And basically, the crisis is imminent. I don't think Obama is going to finish his second term without the bottom dropping out, and stock market investors are oblivious to the problems. The Fed knows that the U.S. economy is not recovering. It simply is being kept from collapse by artificially low interest rates and quantitative easing. As that support goes, the economy will implode. Now, basically we know Ben Bernanke is not going to stop QE. And how do we know this? Well, he studies the Great Depression, and when I did my episodes that had to do with the Great Depression, during the Great Depression, they contracted the money supply, and he realized that. So he's not going to do that because he saw what happened during the Great Depression when they contracted the money supply. So he's going to continually print on, and we will know when things really start getting out of hand, when the printing goes into overdrive. We will see then that things are starting to fall apart. Just like we saw in Germany, it starts out slow and then it picks up, and then before you know it, they're printing like crazy and they can't stop because they're trying to combat, the inflation and everything else that's going on, and they think it's going to help, and it really never does. So right now, if they actually stop QE, everything would just fall apart. Everything is phony. We do not have a solid foundation. I like the analogy that he says, like it's like a cancer. A cancer can be throughout your body, but it doesn't mean that your body gives out. It slowly does over time, and eventually the cancer wins out. Eventually, the collapse will win out. Now, what can they do before the collapse comes? Well, they can bring us into war. And this way, they can cover the entire collapse by saying that, because of this country, we have to go to war, and they caused the collapse, and they can make a whole story out of it. But there was an interesting article where the United Kingdom now is, basically planning to build up a strong shadow presence in the Gulf. So, when England is coming into the Gulf and they're getting involved, that we must be very close for them starting this war. Because now they're bringing their ships in, and they're positioning. We are in position, they are in position, South Korea is in position. We are getting into position for a massive war, and it is coming very soon. Now, today in the news, we had missiles that were fired at a Russian plane that was flying across Syria, and there were 159 passengers on board, but it missed the airline. Now, are they sending them a message? Are they trying to bring them and get this war started? Who really fired this missile? And was this going to be a false flag? Who knows? But I just find it very curious that this happened. And you can tell that England is positioning itself in the Gulf. The United States seeks military presence in Maldives, which is an island off the coast of India, and India is part of the BRIC nations. So we can see that we have forces in South Korea, forces in Maldives, forces across Europe. We are positioning ourselves all across the world to be ready for this war. Now, I believe before we get these wars started, they need to take care of things at home. And one of them is gun control. They're going to need to take our guns no matter what. And we have the President Obama called last week vote round 1. So you can tell they are moving forward with going after the guns. And there was an article saying that round 2 for gun control may take a next Newtown to get this done. I've been saying, and I still stick with it, that we will see another event that will be horrific to push the American people to get this goddamn gun bill passed. This is what they're trying to do. Do we want it passed? Absolutely not. Because the Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms, and they should not be infringed upon. So, but they're going to do everything they can to create an event, angers American people again, have the protests going, and they're setting this all up right now. They are completely setting everything up so the next event becomes a reality. And you know this is happening because Schumer, McCain say gun control bills will return. They are planning on this. They already know. They're just keeping it in the wings and ready. And as soon as this event hits, during that event, just like in Sandy Hook, you are going to see, as soon as it hits, the president talk about gun control a second after it happens. We will see this. It is coming soon. No doubt about it. And right now, Obama is organizing, just like he did for his elections, by using his staff data and techniques from his campaign to build public support for gun control. This is what he's doing right now. So he's building that up. They're going to have the event, and the American people are going to go, yes, now it's time. Now we got to get this passed. And this is what they're trying to do. And it's going to be just completely terrible and horrible in what's coming. And people who are sleeping have no idea, no clue that this is happening. And we do. And I'm saying it now first, and I've said this many, many times in all my episodes, and it will be coming very soon. And what's funny is McCain says the Second Amendment defenders are very active. And he says the toughest part of the issue is, where do individual rights end and the obligation to protect the community begin? Now, they always use this, where they want to protect you. They want to keep you safe. They want to keep you safe from terrorists. They want to keep you safe from paper cuts. They want to keep you safe from putting toast in a toaster. This is ridiculous. We can keep ourselves safe. Think about it. If every American right now had a gun to protect their family, what the hell do we need the government for? We'll protect them. Just like they did back in the Revolutionary Day. Everyone knew how to use their gun. Everyone knew how to protect themselves. In the Boston period, if every single person had a gun, guess what? Whoever did the bombing, which I don't think those two had anything to do with it, but guess what? These people would have a hard time going to any one of the houses, because guess why? Everyone's got a goddamn gun. And it makes it very hard to hide out and be safe. But when you know a community has no guns, it makes it easier. Okay, let's move on here. Now, there was another interesting article where it says, my Army unit has no bullets for soldiers to train while DHS stockpiles ammo. Now, I was thinking about this. Now, are they trying to keep not just the American people, but the everyday military units in the States without ammo? So DHS would be the leading military force within the States, because most of our troops are overseas, and whatever remaining here would have no ammo. So DHS would be the main military force in the United States. And to me, it looks like this is how they're setting this up. And there's another report saying Homeland Security uses more ammo than the U.S. Army. I mean, Republican Rep. Jason Chavetz claims the DHS is currently using 1,000 more rounds of ammunition per person than the U.S. Army. And he goes on to say it is entirely inexplicable why the Department of Homeland Security needs so much ammunition. I mean, really, our elected officials cannot figure this out? This is a built-up civilian military force that has nothing to do with our military, that is run basically by the president and his cabinet to keep control of the American people when the economic collapse comes. I don't know why all of a sudden these elected officials are coming out and trying to figure this out. It's so easy to figure out what they're doing. The reason why they're coming out now is because, people were questioning it. Otherwise, if people weren't questioning it, they would have no clue. They wouldn't even care. They're too busy, too busy worrying about themselves and their political career. And I've said this before. The government officials who are not for the people need to step down. And if they can't step down by themselves, we the people will help them step down. The government officials should not be paid. They should not have medical insurance. They should have regular jobs, and they are giving and volunteering their time to make America a better place. Their time for free to be involved in the government working for the people. They are not allowed to accept contributions. They are not allowed to accept money of any sort. They are not allowed to receive election contributions. They are not allowed to be persuaded by any corporation, group, person to do their job. They are volunteers. They get nothing out of it. You know what they get out of it? They get out of it the ability to help America grow, the ability to help the people, their people. If they are there campaigning with other people's monies, the whole thing is no good. The whole thing is fraud. The whole thing is doing it for the special interest groups and not for the people. So when this government is ready to leave, or we make them leave, we need to add certain amendments and rules that, of course, the first one, there is no central banks. Second one, any government official receives no money. This is not a career. This is a volunteer basis. We need to change the rules. We need to change everything, because we do not need government doing what it's doing today. We do not need $17 trillion of debt again. Now, moving on. We have seen in the past weeks, in the past year, cyber attacks. Now, there have been more cyber attacks, and they're blaming it on many different groups. They're blaming it on China, Iran, the Syrian, Republic Army, or whatever it is. But, the U.S. response to bank cyber attacks reflects diplomatic caution, and this is coming from the banking industry. Basically, they're telling us that they're concerned that Iran is behind a string of cyber attacks against the U.S. and the banking sites. And they are considering delivering a formal warning through diplomatic channels for Iran to stop the hostilities with these cyber attacks. Now, just the other week, they told us it was China. And before that, they were telling us it was North Korea. And before that, they were telling us it was Russia. And now there's a report coming out, pro-Assad Syrian attackers launching cyber attacks on Western media. And they're saying that the Guardian news outlet is being hit by Syrian hackers who have targeted a series of Western media organizations in an apparent effort to cause disruption and spread support for President Bashar al-Assad's regime. So they are building their case for this huge, huge cyber attack that they continually let us know that it's coming. And when this cyber attack does come, it will be horrific. It will be like being in a nuclear war, but without the radiation. Because I know I've said this, but I'm just going to repeat myself. When it comes, they're able to shut off electric, water, drain the banks of money, keep the power off for an extended period of time so people go hungry. And they are able to blame this on another nation. So to me, it is a perfect false flag. It is a perfect scenario. It will make the people angry, and it will make people angry enough to go to war. Now, there are many other ways of doing this. I mean, they can plant bombs all across America, and so this is not the only way, but I think it is a perfect scenario in doing this and really scaring the American people. And we see that they are building a case because an FBI informant has come forward saying that Taliban is already in the U.S. and they're hiding all over the country, and they are building and getting ready for another attack on America. So, what they are setting something up right now. What it will be, who knows? But we know that something is coming. Basically, this is what they're saying. They can commit a jihad at any time. They hate America. You have an enemy living here in American soil. Do not know when they'll take action to kill innocent Americans. This is what the FBI informant is saying. So they're setting this whole entire thing up, letting us know that they're all over the country and they're ready to do something. And there was a report, and I got a lot of people saying, don't believe, these people where these nukes are being placed all around. But from everything that's coming out and everything that is happening, I think that we need to be ready, our eyes open, and listening to everything. Because, again, if I told you 3 days before that 2 planes were going to fly into the World Trade Center and they were going to come crumbling down, you would have laughed at me. Everyone would have laughed at me and said, why are you telling us this? But again, if it's coming from certain sites and they cried wolf, you know the story about the people that cried wolf. They keep saying, they have the flock of sheep and they cry wolf and everyone comes running out and there is no wolf. And the next day they cry wolf again. Everyone comes running out and there is no wolf. And the next day the person cries wolf and all the people come running out and there is no wolf. And 2 days, 3 days pass and the person comes out and they cries, oh my God, wolf. And nobody comes running because, they think that this person's tricking them, that there's a wolf when there really isn't one, but this time there really is a wolf, and nobody comes and nobody believes. So we don't want this to happen. We should always be ready. We should always be prepared. And we can see that even there's some headlines out there saying, persons of interest, home and abroad, U.S. claims more suspects in Boston bombing. So there are more people out there that they know of? I mean, does this go along with the FBI informant that there's other people in the United States and this is, it's not just limited to the 2 brothers? But, we could tell that something is happening, something is brewing, and there is a major event going to happen, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But as long as we're prepared and getting ready, we don't know where it's going to happen, but, we just have to be ready for this. Now, it's something that came out that Obama hates internet news media. Gee, I wonder why. This was on WND. And, he came out to say that he doesn't like the independent alternative media, talking about things and overshadowing the mainstream media and with their conspiracy. Gee, I wonder why he doesn't like the independent or the alternative media on the internet. Is it because that every time something happens, we spot things that the mainstream media doesn't spot because, they're puppets and they're listening to their puppet masters? I mean, it's just wacky to me that people are actually buying this, and he's trying to make a case of why not to listen to the independent alternative media. But that we should only listen to the mainstream media that tells us everything that we need to know. Basically, it's the actual opposite. They tell us nothing that we need to know. Now, I thought there was an interesting article that says the collapse in the rule of law. And it says, one of the critical factors that contributed to the collapse of empires, nations, and city-states is when the rule of law collapses. And we can see this happening now. We can see that they are putting the Constitution to the test. They're trying to get rid of each one of our rights within the framework of the Constitution. And it goes on to say, the rule of law is being assaulted everywhere, but never as great as it is among the Anglo-Saxon nations. In Australia, we also see the drive to eliminate the right to remain silent and the denial of the right to the presumption of innocence. These are critical aspects of freedom. And here in America, we can see that they're trying to get rid of the Miranda rights, where the Miranda rights, where you don't need a lawyer, you can speak freely without uh, referring to the Fifth Amendment or anything like that. So we can see throughout all the different countries, they're trying to whittle away at all of our rights and make it so there are no more rights. And you can see this is what governments do when they're getting ready to completely take over and declare martial law, and they are the only law. We will set down the rules. We will tell you what to do. We will tell you when to go outside. We will tell you when to stay inside. We will tell you when to go to work. Again, our founding fathers created the Bill of Rights because it's we, the people. When the government starts making the laws and the rules and takes away our rights, which they can't, the only way they can do that is if we let them. But when they try to do this, you can tell and you feel it and you know it that this is the time when government is basically in that bully type of frame of mind where we're going to bully the people to bend to our will. But we as a people cannot let this happen. Now, I just want to read a quote from Thomas Jefferson. A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth, general or particular, and what no just government should refuse. And here's another quote from him. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for the people of good conscience to remain silent. He's telling us that we cannot remain silent. And basically, what is happening, and this is why people are confused right now, they don't realize, and some of them do realize, that rights are being taken away. They don't understand why, because they're not fully awake to see everything that is happening. All they see is maybe the NDAA, martial law in Boston, and why are they trying to take the guns away? And why didn't they read these kids as Miranda rights? Why is there an exception? And it creates a lot of confusion among people because to them, and when you're sleeping, it doesn't make sense because this is America and people start questioning it and they start to realize, wait a minute, something's not right here, but I can't put my finger on it, but something stinks. Something is not the way it used to be. And when they start to dig deeper and deeper, they start to realize and start to uncover truths that they didn't want to believe, but now they are believing it, and they start, going into a denial type of frame of mind, and because it is very hard to believe, and they get upset, they get angry, pissed off, because you have to remember their way of life is starting to completely change. Because I remember when I first realized it, I really didn't want to believe it at first either. Like, how could this be? And you do get angry, like you feel like you've been taken advantage of, like you've been tricked all this time. And your parents and your parents before them were all tricked. But when the collapse comes now, the collapse, might come before we get into a war. It might come when people wake up and say, what is going on here? If we have some type of catastrophic event happen and they have to declare martial law on the people just to get them controlled, we might see something happen before the actual economic collapse happen. Because when people start to realize certain things and they start to break it down and they start talking to other people, they realize that things aren't the way it's supposed to be. I mean, right now we can see, everything that's happening. But when people, all of us, start to realize when the government is continually pushing us down, imposing more taxes, more laws, taking away more rights, and we all get together and we realize that the people of the many outweigh the few, when we realize that, we'll be able to stand up and say no more. When we realize that they need us more than we need them, that's when we'll change things. And when we realize that we can fight back, that's when things will change. This is the first stage that we are in. This is the time where government is putting fear into America. And recently there was a poll that was taken, and the poll went something like this. This is what it says. For the first time since a similar question was asked in 2001, more Americans answered no to the question, would you be willing to give up some of your personal freedom in order to reduce the threat of terrorism? Of those surveyed on April 16th, 2013, 45% answered no to the question compared to 43% answering yes. So as we can see, times are changing. The people are confused right now, but they know there's something's wrong. They feel something is happening, but they don't know what's happening. They feel if someone can just tell me what's going on and make it clearer, it would be better. But it's very difficult because when you listen to the mainstream media and you listen to other people that are asleep, you can see that they're not getting the answer they want. And only when you start to dig and you start to listen to other people and you start to hear the truths of what's going on, that's when you start becoming more awake. I mean, that's what I remember when I went through it. I went on the internet. I kept on searching for everything, every little thing that can give me the truth, because things didn't make sense to me. When they talked about the revolution and the Boston Tea Party and all these wars, and they never, oh, someone got shot, we went to war, or nothing ever made sense because it was so vague. And it says we went, and I kept on saying to myself, we went to war because of that? I mean, just like now, Syria has chemical weapons. Now, what does this have to do with America? Nothing right now. But if we went to war right now, people would look back and go, we went to war because they had chemical weapons, and what did it have to do with America? No one would understand it. It wouldn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense. Just like when I think back to the 9/11, and I was talking about this with my wife, and I said, and I heard the news reporters, I was listening to videos today with Jesse Ventura with news reporters, and the news reporter was saying this is unprecedented, where people got on the plane with box cutters and they took over the planes. Has anyone ever seen a box cutter? You're trying to tell me, now let's use common sense here, you're trying to tell me that people got on a plane with a box cutter and they were able to take over the entire plane. To me, it just makes you laugh. Really, that's the story we're going with, and this is what everyone believes. Box cutters, really. Why don't you just say that people got on board on the plane and they had sharp toothpicks and they took over 300 people on a plane or 200 people on the plane? We need to start using common sense, and we need to start looking past what they're saying and find out what the real message is, what they're really doing. And all of us need to get together, and we need to wake more and more American, English, Australian, European, French, Spain, anyone out there, we need to wake people up to realize we are being run by central banks. We are put into wars to fight for their money printing and their money and their wealth and to maintain their control over us. This is what's happening. This is what we need to stop. This is what America, what they were fighting for in the Revolutionary War. They didn't want this. They knew what was happening. And this is why they came up with the Bill of Rights. This is why they said the government is the only entity that can coin money. But look what happened. We didn't keep to what they were saying. We didn't do what they told us to do. Listen, everyone, thank you very much. As always, be safe, be well, and be prepared. Thanks.